Hi everyone, welcome to Elite Tutorials. If you're not a part of Elite Tutorials and want the images of the textbook, you can call us on the number 9699 599 299 and we shall email the images to you. Right? And I'm sure all of you all have seen the video for chapter 1 and jotted down your difficulties. We'll soon have a Zoom live doubt solving session for all your doubts. Okay, so in today's lecture, we'll be starting with the second chapter, that is physical and chemical changes. Now, what is this chapter all about? So this chapter talks everything about change. Now, what is change? Okay, if we understand change is a universal phenomena, it takes place all throughout the world, right? It is a law of nature. So every matter is subjected to some kind of change. When there is some energy either added to it or removed from it. Okay, a very simple thing. When we talk about in the last chapter matter, we studied that if I take a solid and I heat it, it gets converted to liquid. Why? Because on heating it, I'm providing it some kind of energy. So a matter when subjected to any kind of change because of energy, right, will be undergoing a change, right? Okay, so now today what we are going to do is with the start of the chapter, we are learning many different types of changes that occur in the nature. So what we do is we learn them with examples that might become a little more easier for you to understand. I'm sure everybody is enjoying the mango season. Yes, but have you ever wondered why do we have seasonal fruits? As in, some fruits are only available in a certain season. Why? Because they usually ripe, okay, and they take that much time to come, okay, or that much time to grow. So basically, if I give you a very simple example, if I have, okay, so if we've stocked up a lot of mangoes at home, so it may not be necessary that all these mangoes are going to be ripe that you can eat them today, right? So you might be knowing that some mangoes are quite green. So usually you keep them in a carton which has a lot of dry grass or hay, okay, and then it takes a few days and then it becomes from green, it turns into yellow, okay, and that's when it is the perfect mango what we eat, right? Okay, so we can say that ripening of the mango is taking a lot of time, right? So we can also say it takes days to happen. And for the formation of the fruit, it takes a lot of time. So such kind of change, what we are going to study, first change, that is a slow change. Means some changes take a longer time to happen. So they can be classified as slow change. So the first thing what we are going to study today is, okay, we know what is change. And in that we study the first one, that is a slow change. Slow change which takes a long time to complete. So maybe ripening of fruit. Okay, can you think of any other changes which are slow, which take a long time? It takes a year for our birthday to come. So we also develop, right? From a kid to an adult, it takes quite a lot of years. Now you cannot measure that in minutes or you cannot measure that in seconds. So we say slow changes take a long time, maybe something like in months or years. So maybe ripening of a fruit or growth of a sapling into a new plant, growth of a child into an adult. Yes, even for that matter, rusting of iron does not take place in seconds. So all these will be categorized into our first example what we are studying, or the first topic what we are studying, that is called as slow changes, which take longer time to complete. They take longer time to complete. I'm sure you can think of many more examples of slow changes. Yes, I have given you quite a lot. Growth in any form for plants, animals, human beings, all of them come as slow changes. Rusting of iron is also a slow change. Okay, so I'm sure you've understood the slow change. So the next one which will follow will be but obvious, fast changes. So which takes short or else maybe just few seconds or less time to complete. Now over here you can think of an example of a fast change, that would be maybe bursting of crackers. Now that mango which took such a long time to ripen, it can be cut within a few minutes, right? So that would be a fast change. So fast change could be maybe bursting of crackers, cutting of a fruit, right? Or else lightning, paper burning, okay? So all of that come in fast change. So I'm sure everybody's understood the first set, that is slow change and fast change. Okay, so what you can do is you can jot down a few examples, maybe like 2 to 3 examples of your own for each of the changes. Maybe a slow change, fast change, what you can see in and around. Okay, so you can think that, okay, is this a fast change? Is this a slow change? So you can do that as a practice, and you can also think about, okay? Yes, so we are done with the first set, that is the slow change and the fast change. We come down to the next category, that is, okay, before I give you the name, let's see. I give you an example. Now, usually when we say that, okay, so in school, at the first day, you have been, or in the first week, you have been given a timetable, right? Now, this timetable or school timetable will repeat every Monday. Now, in school, what they do is to make things much more simpler. They give you a timetable which is followed all throughout the year, not during your exam times, but otherwise you have it followed all throughout. So it keeps on repeating every week. So it is repeating after regular intervals of time. So every Monday, you know your first lecture is going to be this, right? Okay, so this is what a change which is repeating after regular intervals of time. Maybe if I give you a simple example, okay, so if we are looking at the clock, okay, so it's going to be 1 hour after 60 minutes. So that is fixed. Okay, be it any part of the world, it's going to be fixed. So that is a change which is occurring after regular intervals of time. Maybe the day and night, right? So these are all changes which occur after regular period of time. So, or regular intervals of time. So we come down to the next set of changes, that is called as periodic changes. So periodic changes occur at regular intervals of time. Okay, so I've given you quite a few examples. Day and night cycle. Okay, then you also have the next one, that is your timetable in schools, right? Okay, the clock. So the hours hand, the seconds hand, the minutes hand. So all of them have regular intervals of time. So these are changes which occur at regular intervals of time. So they can be called as periodic changes. So the next one for that is non-periodic changes. Say here they do not have any regular pattern. So maybe, okay, nobody had even thought of COVID-19. Right, this pandemic, okay, so it just happened. Or maybe any natural calamity, it is not specific that it is going to occur after a regular interval of time. So these are changes that have irregular patterns, okay, they might occur once or maybe reoccur at any interval of time. So they would be called as non-periodic changes. So no fixed pattern, okay, or no regularity of time or no regular intervals. They can happen randomly, okay? So they take place at any time. No fixed pattern is followed. So maybe we call it natural calamities like an earthquake or something. So that comes under a non-periodic change. So with that we have finished 2 sets. The first set what we did was slow and fast change. The second one what we did was periodic and non-periodic. I'm sure you are understanding. Okay, we move to the third one. Some changes usually, okay, chalo, we start with an example. I take ice, I can convert that to water. I take water, I can convert back that to ice. So basically some changes can be easily reversed, right? Ice to water, water to ice, easy. But if I have cooked food, okay, so you tell mommy that to make pav bhaji, okay, so she's cut tomatoes, potatoes, all the veggies, and she's put all the masalas and made pav bhaji. Now you ask her to get back the tomato, is not possible, right? Because now this change is irreversible. This has happened. Now this cannot be reversed, okay? So you cannot become a baby again, right? Because now growth has taken place. So some changes can be easily reversed and brought back to their original state, but some changes cannot be brought back to their original states. So we come down to the next set. The next set is reversible changes and irreversible changes. Okay, so for reversible changes, we can say can be easily brought back to original state. Okay, so for reversible changes, you can say all states of matter, what we studied, interconversion of states of matter in the last chapter, melting, okay, so ice to water, water to ice, that is a reversible change, right? Okay, so maybe dissolving salt in water. Okay, so remember, dissolving salt in water, that's called as dissolution. So when I dissolve a fixed amount of salt in water, after I evaporate the water, I get back the salt. So that is a reversible change. I get back the salt. So that is a reversible change. Irreversible change cannot be reversed, or you cannot get back the original reactant. Okay, maybe I take a piece of paper, I burn it, it turns into ash, I am not going to get back the paper, right? Okay, so these are such type of changes are irreversible changes. Okay, so for each the examples would be a lot. Okay, and remember, for one example, okay, they might fall into more than one types, right? Okay, now we come down to the next one. Okay, so we have finished 3 sets. The first one was slow and fast, periodic and non-periodic, reversible and irreversible, right? Okay, and whenever we're talking about reversible, they can be easily reversed and the chemical composition does not change over here, right? Okay, now with this we come down to the next one. The next one is called as, okay, some changes take place in the nature on their own. A plant grows, okay, so maybe growth is a natural change. Okay, so some changes are brought about by the nature itself. Those can be categorized as natural changes, and some changes are man-made. So man makes them. Okay, so natural changes are quite a lot. Okay, and in man-made changes, simple development of buildings, construction of roads, construction of dams. Okay, so all that would be man-made changes. So natural and man-made changes. Along with that, we are going to study, okay, so there is not much to be described. Natural changes, they occur naturally, right? So that would be lightning and all of that, that can be categorized as natural changes. Man-made changes, you can say any construction work would be a man-made change. And with that, we come down to the last category. There are some changes which would be producing useful results. Okay, so they produce useful results, and some changes produce no useful results. Okay, so maybe they produce results which were not desired. Okay, natural changes occur naturally, and okay, so let's see desired and undesired changes. Okay, So desired changes are something what would be producing a useful result. So maybe we say curdling of milk. Okay, so when curdling of milk takes place, you form curd. Okay, so that can be a desired change. We wanted that change. But undesired change, that is maybe like, okay, so I can say desired change is making of glass, and an undesired change would be breaking of glass. Okay, so some changes are what we produce useful results, and some changes do not produce a useful result. Okay, so these are the broad categories. Okay, a few of them I've told you extra. So maybe like this is the main categories of your changes. Okay, and we have one more set of changes that we are going to study in much more detail, that is the physical and the chemical change. Till then, I'm sure you've understood all of this. We can quickly see slow change, fast change, periodic, non-periodic, reversible, irreversible, natural change or man-made change, desirable change or undesirable change. So these are the other types of changes that occur in the nature. Okay, so every day, so possibly you look at some kind of change, you might think, and you can categorize them into these changes. Right? Okay, so with that we finished the types of changes. Now we are going to concentrate mainly on two types of changes, that is physical change and chemical change. Okay, so I'm sure you would find all of this in your textbook. Okay, but if you still want to make a note of this is just simple. I've just written it in easy words. Okay, if you still want to make a note of this, you can pause the video and quickly copy that down. And with that we move to the next part, that is physical and chemical changes. Okay, so I'm sure we've understood all of the changes. Okay, desired changes can also be called as desirable changes or undesirable changes. Okay, yeah, so we finished with the main subcategories. Okay, so now we are doing the main category of changes, that is physical change and chemical change. Okay, so we'll study this in the form of a distinguished table, so it becomes much more easier for us. Okay, and we'll be doing one point of each, so it becomes very easy for us to understand. Okay, so we start with the first one, a physical change and a chemical change. Now, when we're talking about a physical change, always remember a physical change is, simple examples of physical changes are interconversion of states of matter. Okay, so whenever you're learning any kind of distinguish, always try to concentrate on the example and then learn the characteristic. That becomes a little more easier. Okay, so we have the first category, that is physical change, and the second category what we are studying is called as chemical change. Yes, so as I was telling you, in a physical change, always remember no new substance is ever formed. Okay, why? Because it's just changing from one state to the other. So in physical change, your first point is no new substance formed. Okay, and even if means basically I say ice to water. So now when I'm talking about ice to water, ice and water, okay, both of them are made up of H2O molecules. So basically there is nothing new formed. So no new substance formed, and the chemical composition remains unaltered, as in their properties are going to remain the same, because I told you all of them are, whether it's ice to water, both of them are made up of H2O molecules, right? So there is no new substance that is formed, and chemical composition remains unaltered. Okay, chemical composition and properties remain unaltered. Okay, so if we see another example, okay, so I'm sure ice, any interconversion, ice to water to steam, all of that comes in the first category, no new substance formed. But when we're talking about a chemical change, in chemical change, remember, new substance formed. New substance or substances formed, okay? And they will have different chemical composition and properties. Okay, we see very simple examples. Okay, if I take iron and I react that with sulfuric acid, dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, so maybe if you remember, the sulfuric acid formula is H2SO4. Okay, so if I take iron, that is Fe, which reacts with sulfuric acid, it forms simple FeSO4, that is iron sulfate, and hydrogen gas is evolved. Okay, now remember, iron particles are going to react with dilute sulfuric acid. Now, as soon as this reaction takes place, I am going to get FeSO4. This FeSO4 is a green color solution, okay? And along with that, there will be evolution of hydrogen bubbles, right? So, but obvious new substances are formed, that is iron sulfate and hydrogen bubbles, and their chemical compositions are completely different. Okay, with that I give you one more example. If I'm talking about iron which reacts with sulfur, it gives me iron sulfide. Okay, very simple. Iron particles are going to get attracted to the magnet. Sulfur is going to dissolve in carbon disulfide. Okay, iron particles get attracted to the magnet. Sulfur gets dissolved in carbon disulfide. But when I react both of them together, I get iron sulfide, right? So this is called iron sulfide. Now iron sulfide is nor going to get attracted to the magnet nor going to dissolve in carbon disulfide. Means the properties have changed and I have found a new substance, right? I'm sure you've understood these points. So I've given you two examples. Similarly, you can also say sulfur reacts with oxygen, forming sulfur dioxide. So sulfur reacts with oxygen, forming sulfur dioxide. Fumes are formed, right? Okay. With that we come, I'm sure everybody's understood the first example. Let's see the second set of the properties. That is, we say that a physical change is temporary and easily reversible. As in, if I am talking about ice to water again, so ice being in the solid state, water being in the liquid state. Okay, so if I convert ice to water, right? So I am heating it, okay, or I keep the ice cubes at room temperature, I get water. But as soon as I cool that water, I get ice. Okay, so what am I doing is I'm easily reversing the conditions and I get back the products, okay, the original substance. So ice to water and water to ice, easily reversible. And this is not a permanent change. Okay, so we call all physical changes as temporary and easily reversible. See, I'm sure you're going to understand physical changes quite well because that's connected to our first chapter. So it's not much difficult. So we'll have to see a few more examples in detail for chemical changes. Now in chemical change, we say that it is permanent and irreversible. Okay, 1 minute. Here you can also say solid wax on heating will form liquid wax, which on cooling again gives you, so this on heating gives you, so maybe like when a candle burns, okay, there's a little bit of melting of wax that takes place. So I say melting of wax can be a physical change, right? Okay, and this on cooling gives me, okay. I told you when we talk about a chemical change is permanent and irreversible. Okay, let's see very simple examples. Cooking of food, it's a permanent change. I cannot get back the reactants. Okay, growth is a permanent change. I cannot become a baby again, right? Okay, I told you one more thing. Here I was saying melting of a candle is a physical change. Remember burning of a candle. Burning of a candle. When a candle burns, remember it produces carbon dioxide and water in the form of vapor, and along with that heat and light is given out. Right? So now what will happen is that wick has burned. So when they say burning of a candle, it is a permanent change. That wick has burned permanently. Okay? And I cannot get back that wick. It's burned because what will happen is we have formed carbon dioxide and water. Okay? That is on burning of that candle. The size has decreased. But on the sides, the wax that has melting is a physical change, but the burning of a candle will be categorized as a chemical change. Okay, you will have a lot of other examples, that is cooking or food, growth, all of that come as your permanent and irreversible changes. I'm sure you are understanding. It's quite easy. Okay, coming down to the next third point. When we talk about the third point for physical change, we say that there is no change in mass. So if I dissolve 20 grams of salt in a glass of water, I stir it, okay, I evaporate the water, I am going to get back 20 grams of salt again. So we say there is no change in mass. Right? Okay, so when I dissolve something, that is how much amount I'm going to get back again on evaporation. So we say there is no change in mass. Okay, so for physical change, we say there is no change in mass. In chemical change, remember, there is change in mass, but total mass remains unaltered. That is because of the law of conservation of mass. So what are we trying to say over here? If we say magnesium is going to react with oxygen, so I get magnesium oxide. Right? Now what does this mean? When I am going to heat magnesium, magnesium is going to react with oxygen and combine with oxygen, and magnesium is going to gain mass, that is by forming magnesium oxide. So now the mass of magnesium is no longer that much because it has reacted with oxygen. So what do we say? Magnesium has gained mass and formed what? Magnesium oxide. So whenever there is any kind of a chemical change, there is gain in mass or change in mass. But remember, the total mass remains the same because we talk about the law of conservation of mass, what we've done in chapter number 1. Yes, I'm sure you're quite clear with the concept. Okay? So we understood change in mass takes place in a chemical change, and in a physical change, no change in mass takes place. So how much ever amount I have, that much amount only I'm going to get back. Okay, so we come down to the last point. Okay, there's a very little energy change or almost no energy change during a physical change. Okay, simple. If I say I'm converting ice to water, so ice is going to gain energy and get converted to water. But when water is going to get converted to ice, it's going to lose energy. I'm sure you remember this. When we are talking about solid to liquid to gas, there was gain of energy. That was slight gain of energy. But when I reverse the process, energy is going to be lost. So that gain and loss of weight energy is almost negligible. So we say no energy change takes place in a physical change. Why? Because they can be easily reversed. So how much energy is gained? During the reverse, that much energy is going to be lost. Right? So during a chemical change, during a physical change, we say not much of energy is lost or gained. But during a chemical change, when I burn something, right, I told you when we're talking about a burning of candle, energy is going to be given out in the form of heat and light. So during a chemical change, energy change takes place. So there is energy change. That is, energy can be given out in the form of heat or light. Okay, so that's why I told you when we burn wood, okay, so wood, when we burn, we get ash, so that's very little. Okay, but a lot of that energy is lost in the form of heat and light, and also carbon dioxide and water. right? And that's why what happens is how much wood we've burned, that much ash we don't get. Okay, so I'm sure you've understood all the main points of physical and chemical changes. We can quickly see the points again. Okay, in physical change, no new substance is formed. Okay, and chemical composition and properties remain unaltered. It's a temporary and easily reversible change. No change in mass takes place and no energy changes are taking place. On the contrary, in the chemical change, we say new substances are formed and different chemical compositions are there and also properties. Okay, I gave you an example of iron reacting with sulfuric acid. It forms iron sulfate. Iron sulfate is a green color solution and hydrogen gas is evolved out. Okay, iron can react with sulfur forming iron sulfide. Okay, these changes are permanent and irreversible. So when I burn a candle, carbon dioxide and water is given out. Okay, so the wick is lost. So that's a permanent change and irreversible. Burning of anything, cooking of food, growth, all of that is irreversible. There's a change in mass because the substance has gained mass because a chemical change has taken place. Okay, but again the total mass remains the same. Energy change will be taking place. Why? Because heat might be lost or gained, and if lost, it would be in the form of heat and light, right? So we have finished with the main types, okay, of physical and chemical changes. Okay, I also will be discussing a few more examples. Okay, so for physical changes, there are quite a lot. That is interconversion of states of matter. I've told you melting, freezing, boiling, all of that can be considered as physical changes. Also remember dissolution. When I dissolve something in water, that can be called as a physical change. Magnetization of an iron nail, that also can be called as a physical change. Okay, the rain or the water cycle, the rain cycle is also a physical change, right? Or we can also say that maybe I heat a substance, heating of a platinum wire. Okay, it just gets heated and again on cooling it remains the same. So all this comes under physical changes, right? Okay, so these are physical changes. We look at a few more examples of chemical changes. Cooking of food, respiration. Okay, when any food gets dehydrated, means I remove the water molecule from it, that is called as dehydration. I say fermentation, idli batter. Okay, baking of cake, all that would be coming under chemical changes. Also in chemical changes, we studied about a reaction of iron with sulfuric acid, forming iron sulfate and hydrogen gas was evolved. Maybe sulfur reacting with oxygen, giving you sulfur dioxide fumes. Okay, also rusting of iron. So maybe iron when reacts with air, okay, it forms iron 3 oxide, that's also called as rust. So that is also a chemical change. Okay, you have n number of examples for chemical and physical changes. Okay, so what we have done is I've tried giving you quite a few examples. You can still think of many more examples. Okay, so we have studied at the start, we studied about change. We studied the main a few categories of changes, and along with that we discussed the main points of physical and chemical changes. With that we also finished the examples. So we have finished the chapter 2. Okay, so you can thoroughly read your textbook. Okay, that is physical and chemical changes, and if you have any doubts and difficulties, you can mark that and we'll be solving that in the doubt solving sessions. Okay, so till we meet again, thank you everybody.